The black vote has the potential of changing in this next 2024 presidential election. And with that, there's some new polling information out that we really want to talk about now. Joining me here on the set, Khalif Rhodes, who is the former president of the Black Caucus in Charlotte, North Carolina, a defense attorney, also a political analyst. But Khalif, looking at this poll, the New York Times and Siena College found that 22% of black voters in 6 of the most important battleground states say they would support former President Donald Trump over Joe Biden. So how do we unpack that?
Unpacking that, it could take a lot longer than we have time to, but what I can for sure say is that we start with polls are imprecise, that these numbers have to account for a margin up or down, and so that's already factored in there. But when you're looking at these types of elections, you have to remember that former President Trump won the last election against Clinton by 80,000 votes over 3 states, and so every vote counts, and the Democrats recognize that. They know that even within their own party, no person has gotten their primary party out of there without getting the black vote. They recognize that since the Civil Rights era, no Democratic candidate has won without having at least 80% of the vote. So that 22% shows that this would be the potential first time that someone wouldn't get the 80% threshold. But it also shows a number of things, that there are internal and external factors that are at play within the African American community. That first, we're not a monolith, but that the Democrats and the Republicans have done a couple of things. On the Democratic side, I think they, for a number of years, this shows that the black folks are recognizing that they have accounted for their numbers, have kind of already counted them in, have factored them into their algorithm for victory, and haven't really catered to the black population. Additionally, on the Republican side, history, if we're looking backwards, it shows that the Republican Party hasn't done themselves any favor. Look at Tim Scott recently jumping in this presidential race. That didn't shift the needle any for the black vote supporting his side. Look at the Republican Party, what they've done in the past, not wanting to support the voting rights bill, in their support, or I should say non-support, for former President Biden or Obama. So with those 3 things, I think they have done themselves no service. But where they have done a good job is following the track of what former President Trump did in the 2020 election. He started these little centers with these black voices for Trump and these Latino voices for Trump. And going in those communities, the Republican chair said it. She said, we're going to follow what he did and go right into your community and not take your vote for granted. Not saying that you should automatically vote for me, that we're going to try to find a way to earn your vote. And I think that has resonated with a number of folks. You counter those 2 things, the Democratic Party taking your vote for granted, and specifically the Republican Party going out and finding ways to go into your community in those urban areas where they recognize they have to go and get those votes. That has been something that has shifted the dynamic, I think, slowly in the direction of the Republican Party and even slowly in the direction of the former president.
But historically, I mean, when you look at growing up in a black family, it's almost like you were told and taught you're going to vote as a Democrat. And what you're seeing now, it seems like the shift of younger people, middle-aged people saying, well, what are my political interests? So when you unpack this data and you see more polls and more information like that, what's the takeaway message?
I think that's where my second portion was. So those external factors with the parties, doing their own work. But the internal portion is my second part. That portion where you have African Americans that are earning more than they ever have in their lifetimes, more than their parents have, and they're walking away from their party. I mean, not since Lincoln, when it was the party of African Americans, the Republican Party. Then you had FDR with the shift to the Democratic side, where African Americans went wholly behind him with the New Deal. Now you have folks saying, well, do I still support that? Not just ideology, but financially. Do I support it? Does my neighborhood look like what the Democratic Party is talking about? And so because they are not a monolith, it is really having a lot of African Americans doing a self-reflective period, trying to figure out, is this something that I can support? And does this party support me? And it's more than just the party. Does my values, do my everyday things that I depend on connect to this party that may not have connected to me for the last few years? And I think the deeper question is, did it help my parents? So one of the polls that I looked at, there was a poll that asked African Americans, do you feel like you're in a better position since President Biden has been elected? 73% of those folks said they feel like they were not in a better position. 22% of those folks said they felt like they were in a worse position. So African American voters are no different than any other voter out there. They all want to feel like they have an opportunity to do better. And so if the CEO, the person that's in charge, the president of the country, is not putting you in a better position, the only thing you can do is say, show your disapproval by showing up to the polls, or at the very minimum, suggesting that you will not show up at the polls for that individual.
All right, Khalif Rhodes, thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight.